So with traditional Web 2, users sign in with centralized identifiers like emails, addresses, social media profiles. And there's a lot of issues with this around data ownership, who has access to that information, where it's stored. There's also been a lot of loss of trust in the platforms that store this data and have access to this data. And with Web3, a lot of this has been turned on its head. With Web3, users recognize that the technology exists to be able to access and use online platforms without needing to overshare or put their data at risk. They can continue to maintain control and security without giving platforms access to more than they need to know. And with Web3, what's been introduced is the ability to sign in with cryptocurrency wallets. But the issue with that is that with crypto wallets, all the user data that a developer can request and verify is on the blockchain. So they can have access to things like transaction history, assets that are being owned. And in order to really use and make use of sign-in information, that would require personal data to actually be stored on the blockchain, which is a big problem when it comes to privacy. So that's why Doc has built Web3 ID. Web3 ID is an authentication and authorization system for being able to access Web3 platforms to be able to share data in a privacy-preserving, encrypted way with user consent that does not in any way put their data at risk or doesn't overshare any information that they don't want platforms to have access to. We've made it really easy for developers to integrate this onto platforms and for users to be able to use and share only the data or only the information that's needed in order to access certain platforms. There's a lot of really great use cases of how Web3 ID could be used, and primarily to be able to prove somebody's identity or aspects of somebody's identity without actually revealing the documents or the evidence or the data that it is needed in order to be able to prove information about that person. So for example, being able to access something in the metaverse, you can prove that, yes, I am a real person without having to actually show an identification. Another really interesting use case could be to prove your age or just that you are over a certain age to access certain websites or platforms that may only be age appropriate for certain people. And those platforms also have requirements to only make their content accessible as well for certain people. So it provides compliance for them. And another really cool use case too is being able to prove ownership of certain assets, digital assets. So for example, you can prove you own a certain NFT without actually having to provide access to that wallet or having to reveal what that wallet is. You can also prove access of ownership of certain tokens or a certain amount of tokens. So for example, in order to access like a DeFi platform or be able to participate in a DAO, you could use Web3 ID as a way to prove that you have ownership of that without actually revealing your crypto wallet, without sharing your transaction history or any of that data that you would want to keep private otherwise. So if you're interested in learning more about Web3 ID, we'll link it, and you can definitely take a look and reach out to us if you have any feedback or any ideas, or if this is something you'd want to put on your platform.